Hi, okay, welcome to session 3. We're looking at estimating today. We've got our recap, so the last 2 sessions are there. Hit that pause and press play when you are ready to mark. Obviously, it's not a test. If you need to check anything, look things up, please do that. We want to get to the point where you're doing it from memory, but don't treat it like a test. Do look it up if you need to. Okay, and there's the answers. There we go. So hopefully that has gone well for you. All right, good. Okay, estimating. Now, estimating has started to become quite a big question in the GCSE. So we're going to learn in this session all the basics. We're going to see it on some of the more complex calculations, but not so much in the wordy questions that can and have started to appear in the GCSE. But that's only because I don't want to overload you in one session. Those types of questions will come throughout the course. So as we do our recaps, I will start to introduce those more wordy, complex versions of this. But the actual method, the technique, the approach, everything we see today is exactly what we will be using no matter what. So it's not like there's more learning. We will learn everything. It's just seeing it in different types of questions, really. Okay, so let's talk about estimating. And we'll do it with a simple question. So let's say I'm asking you to estimate 79 times 241. First off, that keyword is essential, because if you're not reading it or you're not appreciating it, you're literally just going to sit there and work out 79 times 241. And you could do a beautiful job on that, but you won't get any marks because you haven't estimated. You've worked it out. Completely different thing. So estimate, you've got to really look for that word. It's going to be on a non-calculator paper. So that's where you're going to look for it. I have seen it once referred to in a sentence by using approximately, how much, da, 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 da. So they could try and change the language, but estimate's the most common. Be aware of approximately as well. And what we have to do is take the numbers that they give us and round them to one significant figure. So that's the first skill that we're going to check in with right now. So one significant figure, what does that mean? That means numbers that have a value and nothing else. No other digits apart from 0 if I need to keep it in the right place. So 3 is the number 3. If I put that in, it moves the 3 into the tens column. I've got 30, I've got 300, I've got 3000. I could have put a 0 point in front or a 0.0. They are all one significant figure because they have got one digit. And the zeros are just making sure that that one digit stays in the column it needs to stay in. So let's take a look at our 79. 7 is the first digit with value. So this is the important number. This one will tell me whether or not to round it. So when I round, if it's 5 or more, I round up, don't I? And 9 is 5 or more. So that 9 is going to create an addition of 1 on that 7. So that's going to create 8. But the number is 79. It's not a little 8. So I need that placeholder of a 0. The 9 will change to that 0 in order to keep the 8 in the tens column and create 80. That's technically what's going on. It's a bit of a mouthful. You don't want to think about it necessarily like that the whole time. So this is the number. The first digit, that has value. So I look at the one next to it. If it's 5 or more, I'm going to add 1, but it's not. So I don't have to do anything to that 2 except keep it. So I've got 2. 2 is in the hundreds column, so that 4 has to go to 0. The 1 has to go to 0. Those numbers are now in one significant figure, 1 digit with value, and the rest are zeros. Okay. The reason that we do that is because it then generally gives us numbers that we can work in. We may still need to do some written work. It's not necessarily all happening in our head, but it should be much, much easier to calculate than the original question. And this is, I can do 8 times 2 is 16. And then I've got 1, 2, 3 zeros to add on the end. And that's why we want to be able to estimate, because it can give us an idea of the answer very quickly. Okay, let's first of all practice our significant figures. All right, so I am going to give you the number 53. Now remember, pause and play, pause and play. As soon as I give you the question, if you don't need to pause, if you think you can do it in the couple of second pause that I give you, then obviously happy days, but do what's right for you. So round that one to one significant figure, please. Okay, 5 is the number with value. That 3 isn't big enough to change it, so it will just change to 0. Next number, 102. 1 has value and 0 isn't big enough, so everything changes to zeros. 367. Okay, now this time the 6 is big enough. Yeah, we've got a 3, but the number next to it is 5 or more, which means that 3 has to have 1 added to it. So it's going to go to 4 and the rest change to zeros. It's almost like thinking of it on a number line, yeah? If I've got 300 at this end and 400 at this end, 350s in the middle, 367 is about here, it's closer to 400 than it is 300. Okay, let's do another question. Let's do 0.452. Okay, that 5 is going to add 1 to that 4. 4 is the first number with value. The digit here is important because it's keeping that 4 in its column. So my answer is 0.5. Don't round all the way to 1. Significant figures can be decimals. We've got to keep things in their columns. Think of it that way. All right, here comes another one, 0.019. What would we do with that one? Okay, so I've got my 0.0. 1 is the first value, or digit with value, I mean. 9 is big enough to change it to 2, so 0.02. And I could give you a ginormous number. Let's say I give you 3876 and it puts a couple of zeros on the end. It's still the exact same process. That's my first number with value. So I check this one. It's 5 or more. I add 1. My 3 will change to 4. And then every other digit changes to 0. So it really makes working and estimating very, very simple. Right, let's start applying it to some questions now. I'm going to get straight in with 56 times 627 all over 30.4. So you're going to be asked to estimate that, okay? If you're brave enough and you're happy enough to just go, oh, just try, I'll see what happens, do that, because it's a really nice way to learn. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. It never matters. The fact that you're thinking, well, I've seen how to change to significant figures. I'll see how far I can get with this then. Hit pause and press play if you're comfortable doing that. If not, just listen and watch how this one's done, and then you can have a go at the next one. Okay, so I'm going to round all these numbers. So 56 is going to round to 60, okay? That 6 is going to create an add 1. I've then got times 6. The 2 has no impact, change everything to zeros. And that is all over 30. That 4 isn't going to have any impact whatsoever, okay? Now, if you round 2 out of the 3 correctly, you will get 1 mark. You have started the problem in the correct way and you've done some of it right, you will be rewarded with that 1 mark, okay? So it's just nice to know where those marks are coming from, isn't it? Now I'm going to do the maths that I can see. So on the top, I can see 6 times 6, which is 36, and then I've got 3 zeros going in with that. Excuse me, and on the bottom I've got 30. Now I've got to do the maths, whether I like it or not, okay? So I'm going to cross off those zeros like I'm dividing by 10, top and bottom. That will make life a little bit easier. And then if you can see it, you'll just do it. If you can't see it, you'll go into bus shelter. So you'll say, how many 3s can I get into 3? 1 exactly. How many 3s can I get into 6? 2 exactly. And then the zeros come up. All right. You may not need to do bus shelter every time. You may just be able to look at the 3 and go, right, how many 3s are in 36? 3s into 36 go 12 and then add up the 2 zeros. Okay. You've got to do what's comfortable for you. But remember, if you're dividing and you are stuck, you always default go that bus shelter. It will do it for you. Okay. So estimating makes it easier, but it does still mean there's work to do, doesn't it? All right, let's try another one. So 38.1 times 47.6 all over 2.05 plus 3.1. Now, even if you didn't pause last time, I want you to do it this time. Just go for it. See what happens. It absolutely doesn't matter if it goes wrong. And then we'll look at the answer. Okay, so my 38 is going to round to 40. The 8 will cause that add 1. The 47 is going to round to 50 because, again, that 7 is going to cause an add 1. I've then got the 2 plus 3. I'm going to do the maths I can see. 5 times 4 is 20, and then there's 2 more zeros, and 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, again, you will go into bus shelter if you need to. My eyes are doing this. I can see 20 there. 5s into 20, go 4, bring up the 2 zeros. But equally, go into bus shelter. Do what is good for you, okay? So the answer to this, the estimated answer to this is 400. And well done if you got that right. It's really good. Okay, next question is 9.8 times 27.42 all over 6.15 take 2.8. Okay. So for this question, again, hit pause and press play when you're ready. Okay, so 9.8 is going to round to 10. 27.42 is going to round to 30. Some people accidentally round to 27. Just remember one digit, and then you know you can't go wrong. And then we've got 6 and the 2.8 rounds to 3. That is going to give me 1 times 3 is 3 and 2 zeros. And 6 take 3 is 3. And then 3s into 3 go 1 with those 2 zeros. So the answer is 100. Okay. Next question is going to be 5.82 times 289 all over 0.501. So a little bit different because that decimal's in there. Just get as far as you can get. If you get it right, honestly, it's brilliant. If you get stuck halfway through, it'll be because you're not too sure what to do with the decimal. All good. Just have a go and press play when you're ready. Okay, so 5.82 is going to round to 6, and the 289 is going to round to 300. And the decimal is not rounding to 1. This is the first digit with value, and that's where it's going to stay. It's not going to move. The 0 isn't big enough to change it, so 0.5 is my 1 sig fig for that number. But then I kind of got a bit of a problem because I've got that decimal, and I really don't want a decimal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort out the top and get an actual result up there. So 6 3s are 18, add your 2 zeros. And now at this stage, I'm going to deal with my decimal. To get rid of a decimal, you can just multiply it by 10 or 100, depending on how many decimal places it is. For this, I just need to times by 10. If I do 0.5 and I times it by 10, it will move it 1 place into the units column. It will be worth 5, okay? So I have currently got this, and then I'm going to times by 10. If I'm going to times this bottom by 10, I must times the top by 10, or I'm going to change the actual question itself. That's like a fraction. I need an equivalent fraction. That is going to put another 0 on the top, and then it's going to sort out the decimal at the bottom. Now, 5s into 18 don't go exactly, so I'm not going to try and take a shortcut. I'm going to go straight into my bus shelter. So I've got my 18, 3 zeros, pop down my 5. How many 5s can I get into 1? None. Carry the 1. How many 5s can I get into 18? That would be 3. 3 5s are 15 with 3 left over. How many 5s can I get into 30? 6, and then bring up the rest of those zeros. So the answer, the estimated value of that original question is 3,600. Now, if you knew that about the decimal and got all the way to the end, that is incredibly good, okay? If you haven't seen that before, that is how it works every single time, all right? Every single time. Let's do another decimal one so that you've had a chance to have another go at that. So 521 times 31.8 all over 0.32 this time. So hit pause and press play when you're ready. All right, so you're going to have 500 times 30, and your decimal will be 0.3. That's going to tidy up to 5 times 3 is 15 with the 3 zeros and 3. Sorry, 0.3, I'm getting carried away. Now I'm going to take that answer and I'm going to get rid of that decimal by timesing by 10, top and bottom. Got 3 zeros, and now I've got a 4th, and I've got my 3 on the bottom. And for this one, I can take my shortcut, because when I look at that number there, 3s go into 15 exactly. 3s into 15 go 5. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And that is my final answer. So hopefully that went well. Just keep your count on those zeros. It can be really easy to miss one off. Very easy indeed. Okay. Here is another question, a little bit different. We're just going to do the one. We'll see this coming up, obviously. You get to practice it as well. But we've just got a couple more left to do, and then you can have a go on your own. So we're going to do 4.2 squared times 247 all over 0.761. So there's quite a lot in that one. And obviously, I've now introduced a power. So happy for you to hit that pause button and have a go at that question. And I will go through it in a moment. All right. You really just got to trust in the approach that we've done so far. 4.2 isn't one significant figure. That would round to 4, which would give me 4 squared times 200 all over 0.8. Now, when I do the power, I will end up with 16. 4 times 4 is 16 over 0.8. And this is where you could have a little bit of ambiguity going on. Whoops, let me just try that again. I want to move that across. What's happened at this stage is I've got an answer which is 2 digits. That is no longer one significant figure. So there could be an argument to be had that I should then change that to 20 times 200 over 0.8. But equally, you could argue that that 16 is just being doubled by that 2, which is not hard. So do I really need to round a second time? Now, the examiner's pretty good when it comes to this because there can be a bit of ambiguity here. They would be more than happy to accept this. So if it works really simply and easily, then you would maintain what you've got, not feel this need to necessarily round here. If this isn't simple, then yeah, absolutely round. Or if it's not giving numbers that divide easily, it might be worth rounding. Both of these do actually work through really simply, so it's not a big deal. So let's stick with the 16. 16 times 2 is going to give me 32, and I've got my 2 zeros, and I've got my 0.8. I'm going to times through by the 10, and I've got 3, 2, add my extra 0, and my 8. And then I can say, right, how many 8s? Again, it's in the times table already. Happy days. 8 into 32 go 4, and then I put in those 3 zeros. And then there's my result. I could have equally worked on the 20 times 200 in exactly the same way, and I would still get my marks because I have rounded every single number at the beginning. Okay. So that's just a little bit of a warning there. I'll try wherever possible to give alternatives, because if your answer is slightly different, you want to know whether you're still going to be in the right area for getting those marks, aren't you? So I will do my best when the ambiguity arises to mention it to you. Okay, this is another question that I would like you to do. And it's just starting to give you a little bit of an idea of how they can just lose that word estimate into a bigger problem. So here they would start talking about the compound shape, and then they'd ask you to estimate it at the end. And if you didn't read estimate, boom, you'd be straight into solving that for real. So I want you to press pause and apply all the knowledge that we now have to this area question, and then hit play when you're ready. Okay, so the area is the space inside. I don't have a formula for L shapes, so I am going to split. Now, I'm just a downward splitter. There is no real reason for me to choose that way. I could have gone across as well. Either way, the end result should be the same. I also know that the area of a rectangle is base times height. So over here, I have got 7.2, which is going to be 7. Here, I have got 19.2, sorry, which is going to become 20. So this first rectangle, and I will actually just show the whole thing so you can see what I'm talking about. This rectangle is going to be 7 times 20, which is 140. Now I need this edge and this edge in order to work out the area of that rectangle. Okay, so this edge is going to round to 9. That's nice and easy, but this edge is obviously missing. It's not even there. So I've got to use this information to help me. So This is going to round to 13. Okay. And this is going to round to 7. 13 take 7 is 6. So this missing edge is 6. And I am going to do 6 times 9, which is 54. The final answer is 140 plus 54, which is 194. If it had units, I would include my units. Now I want to go back to this. Because again, this is where you could have a little bit of ambiguity. I didn't round to one significant figure. I rounded to the nearest whole number. Now, the reason that I could get away with that is because it would give me more accuracy because my numbers are particularly small. However, if when you did this, you rounded to 10, which would be the correct 1 sig fig, which then in turn gave you 3 here, and obviously then it would have gone on to give you a different result. You are not wrong at all, okay? So this again is where the examiner is going to give a little bit of leeway. It's just 1 that I kept because it meant my answer was closer to the correct answer than if I rounded further away. And 7 and 13 work very easily in my head together, which is why it is acceptable. And that's one of the reasons why estimating can be tricky, because sometimes they're going to allow a 2-digit number. Okay, but it is quite rare. And my advice is, when in doubt, just don't do it. Just stick with 1 sig fig. All right. When in doubt, don't do it. Okay. They are all the examples that we have for the session. You're now going to go on and have a go at these questions here. All right. Mark as you go, rewind and go forwards and backwards to the answers. And I will see you next session. All the best with the last few questions that you've got.